Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Victor's live section. Apologizing for missing this section for a few weeks. During the past couple of weeks, I took a few business trips, pretty much traveled all around Australia to those cities which our company have branches. Sydney, Melbourne, Tasmanians, and even to Perth. So the reason I'm doing so is, this is the beginning of the financial year. Well, actually, it's about to approach the first quarter of this financial year. We're expecting good policies, and we're expecting recovery of the skill migration program. So we make more communications with each other. And today I'd like to share, a bit news, a bit of information, and which a lot of my clients are asking during the past couple of weeks. The first topic is definitely independent visa invitation. A lot of people are asking about 1NI visa invitation, as we see massive of invitations since August. So till this moment, there has been 3 1NI invitations, and overall it's more than 20,000 invitations has been issued. That's a lot. That's more than what we received for the past financial year, and this is only 2 months. So the first question a lot of people are asking is, will this continue? I attend the MIA, Migration Immigration Association's 35th anniversary event in Hobart, and we actually get a chance to meet some senior officers from the Immigration Department and Minister of Immigration himself. So we get to ask a few questions. Those officers give us some indication that 1NI invitation will continue, and they actually used in the terms that the skill migration will back to good old days. I referring to the situation before 2017 or 2016. So at that time, as we record, at that time, independent skill visa 1NI, it was actually the mainstream of visa invitations. So that's probably something we can expect. The 1NI invitation will continue, and the number is definitely more than we expected. Currently, it's over 20,000 places. Probably, that's just my personal opinion. By the end of this month or beginning of next month, after the financial budget, we're probably going to see the allocation, the full allocation for 1NI for this financial year. It's over 50,000 places. That's not something we can't expect it. It's already more than 20,000 places already. So we're going to see a lot of 1NI invitations. And that brings to another question. As we notice, occupation differences and the applicants between onshore and offshore. Currently, there are a lot of invitations for offshore applicants and not much for onshore applicants. And some people complain about it. We think it's a bit unfair. For some, take some occupation, for example, civil engineers, you see offshore applicants enjoy 65 points for the invitation. For onshore ones, we have clients of 90, 95, they didn't give attention. So, in terms of the qualifications and overall criteria, this onshore applicant, it's better, 30 points more than the offshore ones, but the offshore applicants still get invitations. So people starting to talk about is it fair for onshore applicant or not. And we asked the question during the event. The message sent by the department is they want to recover the belief of offshore skilled migrants about Australian migration system. As we know, in the past 2 years, there wasn't any pathway, not much of pathway, for offshore applicants towarding Australia for migration purpose. So they get a bit of more invitation to those offshore applicants just to send out the message that Australian is welcoming overseas talents to apply through Australian skill migration pathways through different streams, 1NI, for example. So that this kind of message it's sending out. So that's approach they take it now. They will invite more offshore applicants for a certain period of time. They didn't say they're not going to invite onshore ones, but currently the prioritizing is offshore ones. And for some occupation, as we notice, we know health sector, education sector, and tradies, all those trading occupations has been prioritized. But then for onshore ones, even for, as I mentioned, civil engineering sectors, and other sectors apart from educations and health sectors, we don't see much invitation now. But then when we see massive invitation, everybody's starting to have their hopes, starting to have their expectation about the future. People are asking, I have a few clients, for example, solicitors and those and other occupations. Usually we don't think there will be 1 in 9 chances, starting to looking forward to 1 in 9 invitation. My suggestion here, tick 1 in 9. If you haven't do it, do it right now. Open your EOI profile, tick 1 in 9, as long as your occupation is independent visa 1. Tick 1 in 9, because you never know what's going to happen. Maybe the department starting to issue invitation to onshore applicants, and maybe across different occupations. Okay, so that's something you should do. Tick your 1 in 9. And then even a lot of inquiry coming from accounting students, IT students, engineering students, and IT students and accounting students are the majority, particularly accountants. Accountants are asking, saying, do I have a chance? Do I have a chance for 1 in 9? My suggestion is, even the department starting to issue invitation to onshore applicants, even they started to invitation to accountants, they were starting. It's a point-based system, so they will go pick up the candidates from the high to the lowest. So you have to think about your points. If your points, accounting points, 100 points, 95 points, then that's something you probably have a chance. But if your EOI points are about 70 or 75, I just really don't see them coming, because we noticed that, and there's some data there. There are a lot of people, massive of applicants for accounting major, ranging from probably 80 points to 95 points. There are a lot of them. I don't think the departments will issue invitation to all of you, because there's still a balance, to consider. There are so many occupations, and they have to distribute across onshore and offshore ones. But general advice is definitely take your 1 in 9. So 1 in 9 now starting to become one of the options. Usually, in the past 2-3 years, we take 1 in 9 as plan C. Sometimes not even a plan. But now I would suggest everyone take 1 in 9 as plan B for some people. For some people, it will be plan A. Okay, that's something to share about 1 in 9 news. A very good big year in terms of invitation and in terms of recovery of 1 in 9 program. Simply put, 1 in 9 visa is coming back. 1 in 9 stream, it's turning to one of the mainstream again. So that's 1 in 9. Back to ACT or and other state government nomination. This year we're going to see 1 in 9 as one of the way to issue invitation. It's quick, it's simple, it's issued by skill select, controlled by the department, and then in the meantime combined with state nomination. State nominations, back to ACT first. ACT, it's going steady as we have been experienced in the past few years. It's very steady. Still, we see invitation on recently it's about 490 basis, and the point starting to draw a little bit for some occupations, but not significantly, not as much as we can see in 1 in 9. And it's still moving forward. Some occupation have lower points, but then for those IT ones, accounting ones, still remain pretty high. So one of the suggestions is definitely, if you're still in ICT, comparing with all the different state government's policy, I'm not suggesting you in general to move to other states, and just stick to the ACT metrics, see if you can get more points. The reason I'm saying this is we're still expecting ACT will receive more allocation from the departments, and once they have more allocation, they will issue invitation on a more frequent basis. Once they do that, the points will go down, either for onshore or offshore, either for 190 or 491 stream. So, but that's something we can expect within a month, because the financial budget is within 2 weeks. After the financial budget, we're expecting most of state governments will update their allocation figures according to the allocation from the department. So that's something we can see in a month. So if you want to still consider your plans, wait until ACT announce the full allocation for this financial year. You're going to see some increase. That's my expectation. Then you can see if the points actually going down. I mean, in the past couple runs, they still do the invitation, but then the points is pretty steady, little bit going down for some occupation. Overall, the metric points is still very high. Okay, so that's something we can continue to observe. For other states, for example, we don't see much of invitation crossing other state government as well. I will give you a few examples for different state governments. Take state government, we have the figure which is published on department website. It's from the July to September, and we can see the nomination figures. Take ACT for example. Overall, we issue roughly about 500, actually 600 places. So ACT is actually doing the job. But taking NSW for example, we all realize NSW have so many places, but then till the end of September, NSW already given out 155 places for 190 and less than 20 places for 491. The reason why for 491 is a lot of RDAs this year. It's RDA doing the invitation. A lot of RDA has not operating their programs, has not opened their programs yet. A huge delay for 2 months pretty much. Then not much invitation places have been issued. That's for NSW. Take South Australia for example. South Australian is keeping up the pace. They have been issued over 500 places for 190 and over 900 places for 491. So if you do the calculation, South Australian it's issuing invitation according to allocation figures they have in now. And next one we see Victoria. Victoria is doing invitation in their way. So they have been issued roughly about 1,200 places for 190. So as we know, they have over 10,000 places. So again, they are doing their job. Next, state government. This is one I'm actually quite pay attention to this year, because we know that's Western Australia. The reason why is, in the past 5 years, even longer, Western Australia, it's the state government has the worst state nomination policy. It's the worst one. Everyone say it's the worst one, because some of the financial year they don't have much of state nomination programs. They either shut it down very quickly, or they're not doing the invitation. And another way is they don't asking for places. As a state with 2 million population, some last financial year with WA asking for 1,000 places. That's not matching their population. But then things get changed. This year they're asking more than 8,000 places. So we're really paying close attention to Western Australia if they actually using their places properly. Till this moment, end of September, we don't see that happen. Western Australia only issue roughly about 200 places. As I was saying, they have 8,000 places. But then, if you're basing the figure, you are wondering what they're doing. But then, I actually contact Western Australian government for confirmations. They say they are adjusting the pace, because they was not get used to, particularly those team members. They not get used to have such a massive allocation places. So, but they sending out their message, which is their attitude. They say they will try to keep up the pace, and they will try to use all the places they have. That's some good news for those people paying close attentions, interested in Western Australia. So let's see, and there will be an invitation round very soon, in the coming few weeks. And then once they're starting to issue more invitation, again we're going to see Western Australia we're starting to issue invitation to those interstate applicants, even offshore applicants. Currently, they only issue onshore applicants. But then I think they were starting to get a sense there was not much of onshore applicants in WA, in Perth, because the policy they held in the past couple of years. The result is a lot of international students actually moving out from Perth area, and because of the long lockdown policy, that they actually worse the situation. But then they have 8,000 places. Eventually, they have to issue the invitation to other state governments, residents in other states, in order to attracting them to move to Western Australia, in order to recover some confidence in the education sector. So people were starting to pay attention to Perth, to those universities, because they have a migration pathway. So that's something we're looking forward to. As I'm saying, 2 million population, one of the major states, one of the major cities in Australia, starting to recover. If there's a chance, there will probably providing some opportunity for those people paying attention. They were starting to issue invitation to people living in Canberra. Of course, the year's policies, you had to find a job if you're looking for 190 option. But for 491, there was not job seeking requirement. So that's something, let's wait and see. Once there are any updates from Western Australia, I'm happy to share with you. As I recently frequent travel to Perth, looking through some data, trying to come up with some communication with the governments there. So yeah, so this year basically this is how the pictures now at the end of the first quarter. Generally speaking, we're looking, we see a year of recover. We see 189 is coming back. We see 190. There are more places, for most of state governments, and we see some of the state government is doing their job, issuing invitation. Some of the state government is catching up, and then after 1 or 2 weeks, we're going to see financial budget. Hopefully, we're going to see more allocation to some states, particular states like ACT. We're expecting them to receive more allocation. Once they happen, there will be very good news for those people who stick to ACT for the past couple of years, try to increase their metric points. I know it isn't easy, but then if the metric points go down, you might have the chance for 491 or 190. That's some chance for you. And remember the suggestion and the common sense suggestion really to take 189, because you never know what's going to happen this financial year. So anyway, good luck, and hopefully every people will get their either 491 or 190 or 189 this year, because this is a much better year than we see compared in the past couple of years. Okay, thank you very much for watching the live section this afternoon, and then we'll try to see you next week. Okay, thank you.